Hmm?
It's like the Ellen show.
Oh, okay.
It's better than yours, damn right. It's better than yours, I can teach you, but I have to charge. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours, damn right. It's better than yours, I can teach you, but I have to charge.
Hey! Guess what?
Hey.
It's Size Queen Saturday. Why? Because there was no Fat Kings this week, so we thought we would kind of fill in-ish. So, but we
there's
have
no filling in
queens today. Not just 2 queens, but 3 queens. 1 true queen. So we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Sarah, less of Sarah.
I'm Sarah Nerd in Oregon. And our queen of the week.
Yes, our queen of the week. A true queen.
I'm Corey J. Cook.
Wow, we're on it today. You can tell this is well planned.
We are.
Yeah.
I feel like our pre-show preparation is extraordinary.
It really is. I feel like this is amazing. I'm wearing my Lewd and Abandoned Women t-shirt. Spoon is naked with a pearl necklace. So it really is so us today. So Saturday morning.
So, Corey, I could look at you all day.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I feel like one of the topics that, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the people that approach me are thinking about surgery in Mexico, and that's one of the reasons probably one of the top reasons people reach out to me is they're thinking about having surgery in Mexico and have questions. So I thought that one of the things that I haven't seen talked about a lot is a video that's just really about medical tourism. All 3 of us went to Mexico for surgery. So I thought that we should do a little talk about it. So let's just say, I know that one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, Corey, is because Sarah and I have the same surgeon. And so we wanted someone to represent a different surgeon in a different part of Mexico. So I had VSG with Dr. Aceves in Mexicali at Mexicali Bariatric Center on June. I already forget my surgery. It's the 18th, June 18th of last year. Sarah, when did you have surgery there?
I had surgery November 30th, 2012.
And Corey, where did you have surgery, and who was your doctor?
I had surgery in Cancun, Mexico with Dr. Perez on March 2nd, 2012.
Okay. So, I don't know. You're the only person I know that went to Cancun. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that went to Tijuana. A lot of people went to Mexicali.
I had the option to do different places, but I chose Cancun because I'd been to Cancun before, just for travel. But and I knew where the hospital in the area and where I'd be staying, so that's why I chose the Cancun aspect.
Where else does your surgeon does surgery in a couple of different places?
Yeah,
or you
Monterey, I believe, was the other place. I want to say Monterey.
Okay.
But they had it in a couple different spots, and they had 2 different options. You could have it at the hospital, or you could have it at a clinic in Cancun.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about that in a second. So let's start at the beginning, which is why Mexico? How long did you try to lose weight before you decided to go medical tourism route, and then why medical tourism, and then why Mexico?
Okay. Well, I had tried losing weight like all of us most of our lives, up and down, up and down. So in 2010, I was good size. I decided to check into having bypass surgery through my insurance company, through a place in Lexington, South Carolina. It's a big bariatric center up there that's fairly well known. And I went there, and this was December 2010. Did the whole thing, and he's like, I think you should have VSG surgery. If you were my son, I'd perform VSG surgery on you. I'm like, what the hell is VSG surgery?
So that wasn't something you had heard about before.
No,
you were going
no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go the bypass route. I thought that was all there really was. So he was explaining the sleeve to me. So by the time I left that consult, I was sold on the sleeve. Went and did it 3 more times. The insurance denied me, mainly because there's a clause in my insurance policy that says it will not cover any type of weight loss surgery whatsoever, no matter what conditions you may have or morbid obesity, anything like that. They're not going to cover it. So then I started my search through alternative.
Corey, did you have comorbidities? Did you think that there was a chance that insurance would cover it, or did you kind of go into it expecting them not to?
I kind of went into it thinking, oh, it won't be a problem. I'm thinking, Blue Cross, everyone has it, no problems, as what I was expecting, because as big as I was, not really, I didn't really go to the doctor for anything. I always been very somewhat healthy. Mainly I just wanted to lose weight and not be big. And then when they denied me, it pretty much was just downhill from there. That was December. About 9 months later, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. I wasn't diagnosed with sleep apnea, but, stopping breathing in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, getting up. It was just a downhill spiral from there. So that's when I decided I needed to do something more than that, and that's when I started.
How long did you fight your insurance company for? How long did you?
I fought for about 5 months just to try to get some type of coverage, but they just wouldn't cover anything. So that's when, even with that, my insurance is 80/20. I would be required to pay 20% of this surgery. In the States, it was $39,000. It would have cost me 20% of that out of pocket, on top of my deductible. So it wasn't.
You're in over $8,000 at that point.
Yeah, so at that point, I'm like, okay, I started researching. That's when I started, because I didn't know really much about the sleeve, so then YouTube came into play and started watching people that had surgery, and I think her name was Slim Jim or Slim Jacks. I started watching her, and she had surgery in Cancun, Mexico, and then I just found a few more that did it. So that's when I started watching YouTube and finding out more information, and then I found a website, Ready for a Change, and that's who facilitated my surgery.
Sarah, what's different? Like, I know Corey and I both didn't have the option to have surgery through our insurance, but I thought the three of us are kind of interesting because neither Corey or I could have it covered by insurance. You're like the total opposite. You have insurance in Canada that would have covered weight loss surgery.
Yes.
So why medical tourism?
So, I mean, I have to say that I don't know with absolute certainty that I would have been approved for surgery, although I'm sure I would have. It's possible because of my BMI that they would have told me I had to lose weight prior to surgery. Because my BMI was so high, it was 65 or 64, one or the other. They may have actually told me I would not have been able to have surgery until I lost weight. Here in the province that I live in, bariatric surgery is covered, but at the time, at least, it was pretty much RNY only, gastric bypass only. VSG was done, but only at your surgeon's discretion, and there had to be a reason to do VSG. I might have been able to get away with VSG if I told them I wanted to have a DS because of my size, because of my BMI. If they had suggested a DS, I might have been able to get away with the VSG as the first part and then not done the rest, but that would kind of be circumventing, and also I would have no guarantee of having VSG. So because that was the surgery I really wanted, and the waiting period at the time, again, was about 12 to 18 months, and obviously there's a whole process that you have to go through as well, similar to a lot of insurance companies in the US. For me, it was just kind of a no-brainer. I didn't want to wait if I didn't have to. I didn't want to have to jump through all the hoops, I'll be honest. I didn't want to end up with an RNY when I really wanted a VSG. So although I could have had surgery for free, quote unquote, I thought the investment of paying for my surgery and getting what I wanted when I wanted it was worth it for me.
I know I'm about to let a little secret out of the bag because I haven't been entirely honest in all of my videos.
Ooh.
I always say in my videos that it wasn't covered by my insurance. The truth is I didn't have insurance when I went to have weight loss surgery. So, but that being, and I thought, I think that I wasn't entirely honest about it because I think that it sounds like a poor life choice. to have weight loss surgery when you don't have medical insurance. I mean, if something had gone wrong when I came back to the States, I would have been hosed because I had no insurance. But in the spirit of the truth, I had 3 insurances prior, and in every single case it was excluded. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I hadn't tried to have surgery when I was covered. I just happened to not be covered when I ultimately had surgery. But and I don't know. I mean, my impression or my understanding was always that the bariatric coverage was a special rider that your employer had to add to your coverage in the United States. I have a history of working for small companies. I've worked for one mega corporation in the last long while as an adult, really. Like once I was like out of my early 20s, in the beginning I worked retail for big companies, but smaller companies tend to not add the rider because it's more expensive for them to insure as it is. So most of my friends that have it covered by their insurance work for bigger companies. I don't know very many people that work for smaller companies that have the riders. So at any rate,
I think that's true of most of the people I know as well.
Yeah. So at the time, it looked like I'd be getting insurance in the near future, and it was through a hospital, and it was likely that it would be covered. I know that insurance does cover bariatric surgery. So I just went to the preliminary, sorry, that's my husband.
It's my dog, sorry.
Waffle angry.
I went to the seminar that they do where they tell you what the surgeries are, like that introductory seminar.
Sorry. Madison, stop.
I love everything about that.
It's madness.
It's like the damn jungle.
And I talked to them at the seminar, and they said even when my insurance kicked in there, they had basically what amounted to a 3-year waiting period before you had to be on their insurance for almost 3 years before you could have the surgery. Mm-hmm. And it was really like 2.5, and then you could start the classes, right? But like at the end of the day, it would be 3 years from the day the coverage started to when I could have surgery. And I was like, I don't know that I have 3 more years of this in me. Like I don't want to do this for 3 more years. But I did. I think I had a suspicion that something would go wrong because before I went to that seminar, I was so beat down. I had tried to have surgery so many times and been through. I was like, okay, if this doesn't pan out, if I go to the seminar and it looks like I'm not going to be able to have surgery, what's my plan B? Because at the end of this, I'm having surgery. So I had kind of decided before I went to the seminar that if it wasn't going to work out, I was going to Mexico. Like I was done trying here in the States. Like I would give this a shot, and if that didn't work, I was going to Mexico. At that seminar, I found out I wouldn't be able to have it. I cried all the way home, went straight to my parents' house, and told them I was going to Mexico to have surgery. Like it was like once I realized that was my solution. How did you pick your surgeon? You said that you looked into it a little bit. What kind of research did you do, Corey?
When I started researching it, I pulled up their information. He had studied in the States, and Ready Through a Change, they'll connect you with a doctor. So I had Elma was her name. She was my facilitator. She would make sure I had all my paperwork filled out, and she's like, well, there's certain doctors that specialize in certain things. Dr. Perez was more of the sleeve aspect, and I don't even know how many surgeries they had done. But I just felt comfortable with them. They made it easy. Like they always were very comforting. Like they explained everything, and I was a good candidate. Sometimes I guess through them you have to have like a doctor's recommendation. Is what I was under the impression, but I pretty much gave them all the information that I got from the doctor up in Lexington and forwarded all that information with a lot of my pre-labs that they had to do. So I had all that with me, and I shipped that down to them, and they facilitated everything. I told them I had my psych evaluation. There was like a 15-page questionnaire of information I had to fill out, and then pretty much just give them a check, and I was good to go. What day do you want to have surgery? Is pretty much their last question they asked me.
So I'm sorry, I was looking at how beautiful you were, and I missed part of that. I was lost in your eyes, Corey. So did they require you to have those pre-op tests, or was that just...
You know, I already had mine done, so I don't know. I've sent 2 other people there, and I never really asked them if they had to do any pre-ops or anything. I've never questioned that. I just sent what I had because I had kept all my information and my documentation, and I just forwarded that all to them. Mm-hmm. You know, I am under the impression that you probably don't need to do that because they did, you know, some EKG stuff and blood work when I first got there, but I don't think realistically, you know, it was pretty much as easy as how much do you weigh, what is your BMI, and when do you want surgery. It was very easy to that point, I thought.
Right. Was there anything in particular you were looking for in a surgeon? Was there...
No. I mean, because when I was, I don't know, 2 years ago, it wasn't as popular as it is today, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I didn't, because I had looked at the same doctor you guys had as well. But to me, I don't know, it was just something, there was really no before and afters with a lot of people. It was mainly the location. I felt safe in Cancun, to be quite honest. The other places I don't necessarily know. I've never really been. So I felt comfortable going to Cancun.
Yeah.
So that's really the only reason why I chose that surgeon, to be honest with you.
Right. Sarah, tell me about choosing Dr. Aceves and...
Okay. So I did a lot of my research on obesity help. That was sort of my main kind of, I guess, resource when I started looking into surgery again. And that's really how I found out about the kind of idea of weight loss surgery in Mexico. And, you know, I think like a lot of people, I had preconceived notions about like what that was like. And I just tried to keep an open mind when I realized it was a possibility. I started doing my research and, you know, wanted to go to a surgeon that had a good reputation, that had done a lot of surgeries. I narrowed it down to Dr. Aceves in Mexicali and Dr. Alvarez in Piedras Negras. Similar kind of, you know, options with both doctors, similar kind of pricing. You know, in the end, I'm not 100% sure why I actually chose Dr. Aceves over Dr. Alvarez. I know people who have had surgery with Dr. Alvarez. He's also highly recommended. He also has a great YouTube channel. I'm a big fan of his. And he's also...
That's endo-bariatric, right?
Endo-bariatric. I'm going to put links to all the doctors and clinics that we talk about in this video once it posts to YouTube, so just in case you're looking for more information. But I think in the end I chose Dr. Aceves because the surgery was done in a hospital. You got to stay in the hospital for 3 days. They didn't like ship you off to a hotel. I just felt more comfortable with that. I'm not like disparaging any other surgeons and how they do things, but to me that was really important. So I think that was part of the reason. And also I had read a lot of great things about Dr. Aceves, and I was just comfortable with the number of surgeries that he had done, and you know, just thought they answered my questions really quickly. I was really happy with sort of all the information that they had given me before. They answered all my questions, so that was how I ended up having surgery with Dr. Aceves.
I went from not doing any research on Mexico other than that I knew that people went and it seemed relatively safe, but nothing specific, just that there seemed to be a large community of people that went. I went from that to choosing Dr. Aceves in like 2 days. So, but I was considering Dr. Alvarez as well. Price wasn't the biggest factor to me because I was facing $38,000 in the United States. So I paid $87.50. I think his price has gone down since then.
It has, although I know that from what I know, the price is not the same for everyone. So if your BMI is over a certain number, I believe that they charge a bit more. And I can't speak for how they do it now. I know I've seen them advertise pricing from like $7,500, I think. But certainly Dr. Aceves and Dr. Alvarez as well are probably two of the more expensive surgeons because of their reputation, experience, etc. I have seen surgeons charge as low as like $4,000 in Mexico. You kind of have to make up your own mind as to whether it's worth it to you. I would just say, from my point of view, you get what you pay for. So,
yeah. I will say that I haven't talked to people. I've talked to a lot of people that have gone to Mexico, and there are a lot of people that have gone with a lower price surgeon that have great experiences.
absolutely.
So my implication is not that like you pay more, you get a better surgery, but I will say that I will never regret spending the money I did on Dr. Aceves.
Yeah, I think you get a better experience. I don't want to say that your surgery is better necessarily, but I think if you're paying more, you're paying for something. I mean, there's a reason you're paying that extra cost. With Dr. Aceves, I believe it's, the hospital stay, the fact that it's, 24-hour care for 3 days after, that whole thing. A lot of the doctors where you're paying $4,000 or $5,000, you have surgery in a clinic, they can't go out into a hotel, that's it. So you have to make your own decision as to what kind of care you want. And also, if you have a surgeon that doesn't have as much experience, obviously there is a little bit more risk. There was actually a study that I had read that was talking about the fact that outcomes for bariatric patients, and by outcomes they weren't just talking about complications, they were actually talking about weight loss, is better with surgeons that have more experience and have done more surgeries, which makes sense, obviously. But that was something that I had actually researched and read prior to my own surgery.
Yeah, I think that I didn't even do a fair amount of research. I did like 2 days of like where that's all I did was research surgeons in Mexico. My mom, when I told her I wanted to go to Mexico, I'm very close to my parents. And my mom was basically like, I'm going with you to Mexico, and if you can't afford the best surgeon in Mexico, I will help you, because I'm not sending you to Mexico. She had a thing about me going to Tijuana. Probably because she spent a lot of time in Tijuana in the 60s.
Right.
And it probably didn't seem like an idyllic place to have the surgery, but she was adamant that I not go to Tijuana. I would have been okay with going there. I didn't have a problem with it. So anyway, after doing all the research, and I sent emails out to a few different surgeons. I would say that Nina probably had a large role in why I chose Dr. Aceves too. Nina is his facilitator. Yeah. And she was extremely responsive. I got an email back from her immediately. She was willing to talk to me on the phone or email me. She gave me all the information I wanted. When she didn't know the answer, this was a big thing for me. This is a big thing for me with service people in general. When she didn't know the answer, she just said, you know what, I'm not sure, let me find out for you and get back to you as soon as I can, and she did. There was a lot of follow-up, but also I didn't get the sense that she would say whatever she needed to get the sale. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it was a question where she could have been like, I think I asked about his complication rate or something like that, and it would have been easy for her to say that it wasn't that generic. It was a very specific question about it, and it would have been easy for her to give me an answer that sounded good and was favorable, but instead she really went back and talked to someone, and that was important to me because you don't know what you're getting into. I mean, the requirements in terms of way that physicians advertise and what they say is not as highly regulated in Mexico, so they really could, in theory, just say, something, and that was a big deal to me.
Oh, sorry, I have to interject something just talking about Dr. Aceves. Not that I want this to be like a Dr. Aceves advertisement, but because Sarah and I both had surgery with him, he'll probably get mentioned a lot. One of the other reasons I chose Dr. Aceves over Dr. Alvarez, and this is just from what I had seen, I hadn't seen a lot of people who were more like super morbidly obese who had surgery with Dr. Alvarez. So a lot of the testimonials were people who had like 100 pounds or less to lose. Whereas with Dr. Aceves, there were more sort of testimonials and stuff that I'd read from people who had 100 pounds plus to lose. And that was another reason that I remember looking more closely at Dr. Aceves. Now, I could be wrong about Dr. Alvarez. This was just in the research that I did at the time, because for me, it's kind of another level, I think. If you have 100 pounds or less to lose, I think, I'm not saying, you can just go to any surgeon, but for me there was a difference because of my starting BMI, because I knew the surgery was more risky for me, because I knew I needed a good outcome, that was a big deal. So for me, I had other considerations that maybe not everyone has when they're researching a surgeon. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So Corey, what did people? I know that you're one of the people that you didn't tell a lot of people you were having surgery, right?
No, I told like my friends knew, my employers knew. I even changed the letterhead and removed that it was in Cancun, Mexico, because I didn't want them necessarily to know where I was going to have my surgery. So when I had to ask for time off from work, and I just wanted to cover all bases. So when they send me, I said send it without the Mexico aspect, because I just wanted them to know I was going to be having surgery, but I didn't necessarily want them to know where I was having surgery. Because, I don't know, it was just weird for me.
Yeah. Did you tell
say that again?
Did you tell anyone that you were going to Mexico?
My employees knew, but no one in my family knew I was going to have surgery. None. No one.
Right.
I didn't tell anyone. Just my friends.
What about Mexico? Who knew that you were going to Mexico?
My friends, my staff knew I was going to Mexico. Yep, friends and staff, people that are that are around me on a daily basis, they knew I was going, but no family knew I was going to Mexico. They knew I was going to Mexico on vacation, and I was going to Cancun, but I kind of monitor what was going on and who knew what, and no one really was posting much about why I was going. Mm-hmm. They all thought I was going on vacation, pretty much.
So what kind of reactions did you get from people when you told them you were going to Mexico for surgery?
Some are all for it. Others, like if my parents knew I was going, they would have been totally against it. Because I jokingly made a comment years ago that I could go have bypass surgery in Tijuana for $5,500, and I think that always would resonate. Like, oh, you better not. You'll die on the table, that kind of scenario. So I feel if I would have said stuff to my immediate family, that I probably wouldn't have had surgery. I would have been talked out of it. Probably.
Sarah, what about you?
They think Mexico, third world.
Yeah. I deliberately did not tell people, or a lot of people beforehand. Not because I cared what they had to say about me having surgery so much as I didn't want to hear their opinions of me going to Mexico. I've talked about this before in videos, but very few people are going to tell you when you're 460 pounds, don't have weight loss surgery.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of other people, I've never had a negative reaction about me having surgery. No one has ever said anything negative to my face. Probably because it was yeah, you're fat, you need to do something about that. But I have had negative reactions about going to Mexico. So I tried to keep it from as many people as I could. My parents knew. 4 of my friends knew. I didn't even want Will to tell his parents and his brother, but he did. But yeah, and then my mom also told her sisters, my aunts. I don't know why, just because it's my mom and she can't keep her mouth shut. But no one really said anything to me, with the exception of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, both talked to me about it. Not oh my God, don't do it, but just sort of with a bit of skepticism, and wanted to make sure I'd done my research and all that sort of thing. My mother-in-law has friends in Mexico. She went so far as to get the surgeon's information, so one of her friend's sons, who's a doctor, could check with the medical association there, make sure everything was above board and all that. So that was nice of her to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I deliberately did not tell people. And even some people I told I was having surgery, I deliberately didn't tell them where I was having surgery, because the reactions that I got about going to Mexico, even post-surgery when I told people, were way different. No one had said anything negative about having surgery, but I still have reactions from people when I say I went to Mexico. So the surgery is not shocking to anyone, but having it in Mexico is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told everyone, you know me. I'm I'm just gonna tell you my truth, and I'm take it or leave it. That's just who I am as a person. I'm super upfront. I don't mess around. I am who I am, and take it or leave it. I was that way about surgery too. I told everyone, I was I'm having weight loss surgery. I'm going to Mexico to do it, and if you can't get behind that, then okay. But that's what I'm doing. So you can't be. I don't want to hear. And you know what? I had a lot of good conversations about with people about it. Almost everyone that was concerned because I was going to Mexico. Some people were concerned because they weren't familiar with weight loss surgery, and weight loss surgery has changed so much in the last 15 years. Some people's only exposure to someone with weight loss surgery is someone that had R&Y in the early days and have, complications that they don't really deal with anymore. Some of the early R&Ys, there's some pretty serious complications that are long-lasting. So I had some people that were concerned because that was their knowledge base of people that had weight loss surgery. But most people were concerned because I was going to Mexico and, are there going to be chickens running around the hospital, and do they even use gloves, and is there antiseptic, and, do they speak English? And so I did have a lot of concerns about that. And one of the things I was really grateful for is the people, and you were one of them, Sarah, that took videos of the hospital and put them on YouTube. Because you do kind of have, I've seen also, I used to sell real estate. So I know that you can make a shit house look amazing on the internet. You can take a shack that is falling down, and in a few well lit and good angle pictures, make it look like a mansion on the internet. So I wasn't surprised that the hospital elevator looked good online, but when I saw people's videos of it, it was really reassuring to me because I didn't know what I was getting into entirely. I trusted that the reviews were good, so it must be a good experience, but there's always part of you that's like, what exactly am I getting into when you leave the country for surgery? But my mom and dad were freaked out that I wanted to go to Mexico, which is why my mom went with me.
Right.
I think she was kind of like, I will go. She didn't even want, she wanted to be the one to go with me because I'm sure that she was like, I will make sure that that everything is on the up and up before you lay on that table.
Yeah, my mom was like, I will go with you, but she deferred, as long as Will could go. She was like, no, it's fine, Will can go, but if he can't, then I'll go with you. She was there as backup. I think she wanted to go, but, yeah. Will wanted.
Corey, did you go alone, or did someone go with you?
I had Bill came with me. We went together. So, and that's why I facilitated it. And that included what I paid for mine was about $8,000, and that included my hotel, airfare for both of us, the extra, and I had to pay $1,000 more because of my BMI being higher because of the anesthesia and different things that they would require more of. So, at the end of the day, for $8,000 to include everything, it was worth it for me. And that was 3 days in the hospital and an extra day even in Cancun after. So, but yeah. I didn't travel alone. And then my mom was kind of curious, after the fact, when I finally told them, like, well, what if you would have died on the table? And I'm like, I had a letter ready to mail. Someone would have mailed you a letter saying I died on the table, trying to, to get healthy. Pretty much is the way I said. So, I never shared the letter to her, but I did write a letter that if I were to die, this is the reason and the reason why, But I had no quality of life at 428 plus pounds. So if I died on the table, I died on the table. That was the attitude I went in with it. I had no quality of life. So that's why I went for it.
I know that what I paid it didn't cover airfare. But I was flying from Portland to San Diego was relatively inexpensive. That was one of the reasons I went with Dr. Aceves, too. Dr. Alvarez was in a different time zone, and the flight probably would have been more, and it was a longer flight. And I didn't know how I was going to feel after surgery. So.
San Antonio, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. San Antonio, Texas, I should say.
Yes. So I paid airfare, and we, because of the times of the flight and when Ernesto picks you up in San Diego, he's the driver for Dr. Aceves that picks you up in San Diego. He's so nicest guy. I felt like I was on a tour, too. He pointed out all of the interesting things between Mexicali and San Diego.
Yeah.
So we flew in a day early. We flew in on Sunday, and Ernesto picked us up on Monday. But we stayed at the Sheraton. Actually, we stayed at the same hotel, Sarah.
I know.
I was picturing me with the famous curtains. But it included our fee included the drive from San Diego and back, as well as everything once we were there. We stayed one night in a hotel in Hotel Lucerne. Was it Lucerna? I don't remember.
Lucerna, yeah, I think.
In Mexicali, and then yeah, my mom stayed in the hotel one of the other nights, and she paid for that. But she could have stayed in the hospital room every night if she wanted to. She has back trouble, so she wanted a bed. But
the couch was a lot more comfortable than the hospital bed, I'll tell you that much. Like, at that hospital, they have full-size leather couches in each room. And I would kick Will out of bed, or out off the couch at one point during the night and sleep there because it was way more comfortable than the hospital bed. I was like, listen, I just had surgery. You get on the uncomfortable bed. I'm getting on the couch. So.
And Hotel Mater also had like a little dining area for if someone came with you, and my mom bought lunch there a couple times, and it smelled really good. I mean, I had no sense of hunger. I had no desire to eat it, but she said it was good, and it smelled really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Will also enjoyed the cafeteria with the little old like Mexican ladies making food, and yeah, I mean, it was the experience in general for us was, you know, almost like a vacation-ish. There's not, like, Mexicali is a very big city, actually, but it's not a touristy kind of place. So it's not like there's a lot to do there. But, you know, the hospital was lovely, the people were lovely, so I'm not saying it was the best time ever, but it was not horrible, certainly.
What was the facility like where you were, Corey?
It's a small hospital. I think it was probably like 50 rooms max. It was a Maramed hospital. It was spotless clean. When you first walk through the door, it's like on a busy street, busy intersection. I think it's like 4-way stop intersection, like right there. Constant traffic. As soon as you walk through the lobby doors, it's spotless clean. It was immaculate. First impression was like, wow. Went down to the registration area to check in. Everyone spoke English. I mean, if there was a barrier, there was someone there that would translate. I had no issues with that at all. And a little different thing, like with mine, is pretty much I had the paperwork, and they brought me back. They did like my EKG and did draw some blood, and like the anesthesiologist came and talked to me. There was, I don't know, this little guy, I don't know really what he did, but he was like 4 foot tall. He talked with me about something, and then my doctor came back and they said they had an emergency surgery with a kid that was in an accident, and they asked me, do you mind if we just send you to your room and we'll come back and get you when we're at a surgery? And I'm like, sure, no problem. I didn't care. I was supposed to have surgery at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They came back when they finished. It was like 7 o'clock. So if it was in the States, doctors aren't going to perform surgery on you at 7 o'clock at night. But they still did the surgery.
So you had surgery the day you got there?
The day after. I went a day early, Thursday, and then I was scheduled for surgery, I think, at like 3 on Friday. But they ended up bumping it back to 7. So on a Friday afternoon, they ended up doing the surgery. But because of my high BMI, they wanted to make sure they took their time and make sure they got the right size bougie and take their time because of my BMI is what he was saying. And, it was from the moment I walked through the door to the day I left, the place was immaculately clean. The staff was very friendly. It's not like a hospital in the U.S. where they come in every 5 minutes and they check your vitals and wake you up if you're trying to sleep, or forcing you to get up and walk. I mean, they saw me walking. Like, I would get up every 15 minutes just to walk. But I liked the fact that they didn't come and pester you every 5 minutes to see, are you in pain, or do you need this, or let me take your vitals. They didn't do that. They let you sleep. If you needed pain medication, they gave you pain medication. I didn't have a pump. I think you guys had pain pumps. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought.
I didn't pump.
No, but they would come give me, medicine if I needed it, but they just let you relax. And the person that was there with me, they noticed that was one of the biggest things. Like, they're not there to pester you or wake you up when you're sleeping. If you were sleeping, they let you sleep. If you needed pain medication, they would give you pain medication. But I was impressed with how clean it was, and it was so quiet. Like, you could hear a pin drop at any given time. There was no one yelling and screaming like the hospitals. To me, in the U.S., they're just madhouses. So, but it was immaculately clean. It was just clean, quiet. I had white socks on, and I walked up and down the hall. My socks were still white when I left. I mean, that's how clean the place was. So
I would say that too. Like, I mean, compared to a Canadian hospital, and I'm not disparaging Canadian hospitals, but we have public health care here, so we don't have private hospitals. Staying in a private hospital, it was like night and day. I mean, it's like completely different. I'm not saying hospitals here aren't clean and that they don't take care of you, but like at Almeida, they clean like 24 hours a day. Like they would clean the floor like 4 times a day. Like it was just a whole other level of hospital that I'd ever experienced before. I had no issues whatsoever with that. I thought the hospital was amazing.
Yeah, I know. Facility was super clean in my experience too. The hospital was small. It's the smallest hospital I had ever been in. When I took a walk, I never went upstairs. Apparently there was an upstairs. I learned on the last day there. I never went upstairs, but I would do my little circuit. Now the wing at Almeida is just for bariatric patients. There's like probably 5 or 6 rooms. Don't you think, Sarah?
Yeah, maybe like 8 at the most.
Okay.
Like 6 to 8 rooms, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the bariatric wing there. So it's really a small wing, but I would leave my little room, and they let me choose what room I wanted because I was like the only one there when I got there. And I did my little circuit around, stopped and looked at the babies, passed the cafeteria. Like I had like a little circuit that I took every time I got up and walked. And so it was small, but it was super clean. They were always cleaning our room. And I had the operating room, I remember being very clean. Like everything was super cleaner than the hospitals that I've experienced here. A lot more homey too. It almost like I guess we have birthing suites, at our hospitals where it's like those are the nicest rooms in the hospital is where you give birth, and they have like usually like wood floors and a couch. It felt more like a birthing suite than a hospital room.
Yeah, it did, absolutely. It was not as clinical as like a hospital here would be. Not that it wasn't clean or they didn't have like updated things. It's just that the furnishings, like they had like art on the wall. Like it was just, it was sort of like a cross between a hotel and a hospital.
Yeah, even like the painting, they used like warm tones on the wall. It felt very homey and comfortable. It wasn't like I'm uncomfortable in American hospital rooms. They feel very like sterile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not in like they're so clean they're sterile, but just yeah. So you've recommended people to your surgeon since then, Corey? It sounds like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they've come back and said they had similar experiences and.
Yep. And I think it's Scott Heath. He had surgery there recently. His was at the clinic, and he had a different hotel. I think they've chosen. They used to do the Westin Laguna Mar, and I think now they're using their Radisson, which is pretty much the same aspect. It's just a little closer to the hospital. He had a good experience. One of my guys one of our regional managers with the company that I work for, he went and had surgery based on my recommendation. He enjoyed it. He's lost, weight as well. They're all doing very well with it. And there's been a few others that I keep giving the information out because a lot of our insurances don't cover it, and that's the reason why they are now looking into doing an alternative as well.
So let's talk about.
But I'm also kind of pissed because our employer doesn't offer it.
Yes. I wish that Chris and I were talking before we went on air. Chris and I were talking about the fact that his was covered by his employer. So he's more skeptical of medical tourism, but then again, he was never faced with that being his only option. So he never really thoroughly researched it or anything, but he admitted that up until he met me, he totally was like, I cannot believe people go to Mexico to have surgery. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
I have to say, I think that most people with that opinion, it's just ignorance, like they just don't know.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that have actually researched it and talked to people have a different idea, right? Just like anything else, if you don't know about something, it's easy to be frightened by it. Yeah, I mean, I felt 100% comfortable doing it. I would do it again. I will do it again when I have plastics. I am choosing to go to Mexico. There are reasons for that. Money is one of them, for sure. I cannot have plastics covered here. I shouldn't say that. I could, but it would be literally one thing. It would be a panelectomy. If they covered it, no tummy tuck. No, that's like 1/10 of what I need done. So I can't even be bothered, frankly. So yeah, I will choose to go to Mexico again, and I have no problem with that. So.
Let's talk about, in all fairness, to give the whole story. I mean, we all had great experiences. I would send someone, and I have sent people to Dr. Aceves. I rave about it. My mom, who was the biggest skeptic of all before surgery, raves about going to Mexico for surgery now. She tells everyone, have you considered medical tourism? But let's talk about the downsides of going to Mexico. Is there anything that you've run into that maybe people that had surgery in the States or in Canada have, like, support-wise, or just whatever that you haven't experienced that you thought, man, that maybe would have changed, or that would be nice if I had that, or anything about going to Mexico? Not that you regret going, but that has been maybe more challenging, or any downsides to it for you?
Corey?
I would say probably the aftercare. You know, that I just used my regular doctor. I told him what happened. He educated himself on what surgery I had, so he knows what to look for, I guess, so to speak. But if I were to have any major complications, I have no earthly idea who I would go see. That was a concern after the fact, but not in the beginning, because I just didn't care in the beginning. I wasn't thinking, you know, later on aspect. I just wanted to be thin and healthy, or, you know, healthy was my main concern, and lose the weight. But the aftercare and everything up here after, nothing can prepare you for that. I wish I would have known more about that in the beginning.
Sarah, what about you?
I don't know that there's anything that was a negative for me, but certainly, I mean, aftercare varies in general. I mean, I know there's people in the U.S. who seem to not have a lot of aftercare with their surgeons. For me, with Dr. Aceves, you know, yes, they give you instructions for post-op. You know, they're always available via email if you have a problem. The couple of times I've had to email them about stuff, I mean, they get back to you right away. However, you know, aftercare is an issue. For me, I went to my family doctor, I had actually just switched doctors. So basically I went there and was like, hey, so I'm having this surgery, whether you like it or not, in Mexico. Here's what it's about. I just need to know that you're willing to go to bat for me if I have an issue. And basically she said, you know, yes, I'm willing to do that. We obviously do have bariatric programs here. It's not like they could refuse to treat me just because I had surgery in Mexico. That's legally not allowed. So I knew that it wasn't like I couldn't get aftercare here if I needed it, but I do not have access to hospital-run support groups or nutritionists or any of that stuff through bariatric programs because my surgery was not done here in Ontario. I'm the kind of person that does a lot of research. I have no problem taking responsibility for my own health care and all of that stuff. So for me, it was a great choice. I don't think it's a great choice for everyone. And that's something that I kind of have to warn people about. I've certainly seen people who have gone to Mexico and have struggled post-surgery because either they're unwilling or whatever to do their own research or to find things out, and they make poor choices and they don't take it upon themselves. And there isn't really an excuse for that, to be honest. I mean, you need to take charge of your own health. The information is there for you to find on YouTube, on the internet, whatever. If you're the kind of person who isn't willing to do research or take charge, then Mexico might not be for you, to be honest. That's just the truth, kind of as I see it.
Yeah, I think the downside for me is really the only downside that I had was pre and post care. I mean, the truth about having surgery in Mexico is that it's kind of like getting into community college. Like, it's not that it's bad, it's not subpar. You get a lot of personal attention, but as long as you have a pulse and a check,
yeah,
you know, you can have surgery. And that's not entirely true. That's an unfair representation, because if you say in the questionnaire that you have some, they do turn people away, but the onus is on you to be honest in your medical history, and they do run tests. I mean, I had an EKG and a chest X-ray, And I drank water all the way from San Diego to Mexicali, and about 5 miles from the hospital, I was like, Ernesto, when we get there, I need a cup because I'm going to pee the second I get out of this car. And so they did, and they did a blood panel. You know, they did do tests. So there are ways that you could get denied, but it is certainly easier to have surgery in Mexico than it is in the States. For pre-care, you know, YouTube was my pre-care. In terms of other people have to go through classes, and I just watched a lot of videos, so I felt like I understood what was going to happen afterwards. I, too, am a researcher by nature, so I wanted to have a very good idea of what my life was going to be like after surgery, and I didn't have a class to go to learn that. You know, I didn't have the 6 months where you go and you sit in a class. So I think that when you go to Mexico, you have to take a lot more responsibility for your journey, more responsibility for educating yourself, and no one's going to tell you something because you're having the surgery. Like yeah, I sat down with Dr. Campos and Dr. Aceves, and they taught me, but it's not like having 6 months where they're like, this is the reality of your life after weight loss surgery. You know, you don't have that. So you have to take ownership of finding that out on your own. Post-care wise, I'm a bad example because I did not have health insurance until the first of this month. I went almost 2.5 years without health insurance. So if I had had health insurance, I probably would have gone to the doctor and had a blood panel done at some time and had my levels checked, and I wouldn't have bariatric care, but I could have seen my physician. I elected not to, in large part because I wasn't having problems. If I was feeling ill or like I was having some sort of issue, I would have paid out of pocket to see a doctor. Chris cannot wait to get me in front of a doctor, though, because he's horrified that I haven't seen a doctor since the last doctor I saw was Dr. Aceves. So, but that is something that you have to think about. Some surgeons, some medical facilities, while they can't deny you emergency care, some doctors won't want to touch you if you went to Mexico in terms of preventative or post-op care or whatever. I mean, if you're dying, they're going to treat you. But if you're not dying and you're just having issues, they aren't necessarily going to take you on. So that's something you have to be prepared for. And I definitely recommend that if you're thinking about going anywhere, not necessarily Mexico, but anywhere for surgery, that you talk to your doctor about it first if you have a doctor, and if they won't be part of your aftercare plan, find a doctor that will be, because I think that's important, says the person that hasn't been to a doctor.
Yeah, that's the advice that I always give people is, you know, I have a lot of people who also ask me questions about going to Mexico, and I always say you need to have a family doctor who is behind you, who supports you, because if you don't, then if you do have some kind of complication or problem, you're going to have a really difficult time. You need to have somebody in your corner who's willing to fight for you, to get you the care that you need, who's willing to do follow-up with you. If your doctor isn't on board, find a different one. Like, that is something that I think is really important if you are going to Mexico.
And I did, because I didn't have insurance, I tried to self-insure before I went to Mexico in the event that something went horribly wrong. But of course I was honest on my insurance applications, and the responses I got back were like, yeah, we'll insure you excluding anything related to your surgery in Mexico. And I was like, well, I guess that's not helpful. So,
I looked into specific medical tourism insurance, which does exist, and I got some quotes from a couple of places. In the end, I decided not to purchase it. It was quite expensive. I think one of the quotes I got was like $1,000. One was like $850. That's a lot of money when you're talking about on top of what you're paying for surgery. So I, in the end, made the decision not to purchase it. But it does exist, and it is something that you can get.
Yeah, did you have any trouble after surgery, Corey, with doctors? I know you talked to yours, but you felt fine with being able to get aftercare?
Yeah. I mean, like, after I got back, it was probably 3 months, and, you know, in 3 months, I think I had lost close to 75 or maybe even 100 pounds. I'm not 100% sure what it was. And I had a doctor's appointment with my my general doctor that I see. He couldn't get over the difference, and that's when he asked, you know, what have you done? And then I told him, and then he started educating himself on it. You know, I told him what I had and where I went and what I did, And then he's like, let's run your blood. Let's run a full panel on your blood. So he did. You know, everything came back good. I was taking the vitamins and everything that was supposed to be. He says, we need to get you off of all your medications. I'm like, well, I pretty much stopped taking them, like a month after surgery anyways. But he says, you're no longer diabetic pretty much, and you don't need to be taking your high blood pressure, your cholesterol. Everything was pretty much cured within 6 months. I mean, 6 months I was off of everything. So he's been very supportive of it. He's referred people to me. He's given me tips and advice, and you know, he's given me contact information for a nutritionist that's within his office, and he's been amazing. He's been very good, actually. So I've been lucky on that aspect.
That is, I know that Dr. Aceves and his staff were always willing. They did check up on me after surgery, and they were always willing to answer questions and give me more information. I didn't feel like I didn't have any support. But once again, you kind of have to take ownership of it. It's not like, you know, you have a 3-week appointment and you're going to talk to your doctor. You have to be the one to ask the question. You know, you have to go out of your way to
Right. They ask you to follow up with them at specific points. But they're not going to necessarily email you and ask you how you're doing. If, you know, I'm sure if they didn't hear from you at all, they would, but you do have to take it upon yourself to follow up with them. For me, that wasn't an issue, but yeah, you do have to take on more responsibility, for sure.
The one thing I wish I had, I guess, that I don't have because I went to Mexico is the bariatric nutrition. Being able to meet with a nutritionist that specializes in bariatrics, because I have had, you know, there have been times when I've been completely on track and it's not working, and I don't know enough to look at my history of what I've been eating and see where adjustments could be made. And there's so much, and that comes from someone who's a researcher, and that's because there's information all over the ding-dong place on the internet. Some people say, you know, stay under 800 calories. Some people say you need to go up to 1,200. Some people, you know, and there's just, and this much protein and not over this amount of carbs. And I feel like the information is pretty, I mean, there's a pretty broad range of what people consider proper post-op nutrition. And I would have liked some personal guidance
the interesting thing, though, is all that information comes from nutritionists. So
yes, but I mean like a more personalized, like sit down and look exactly at what I'm eating and how my body's reacting, and let's come up with a personalized plan for me, because I think everybody's different.
My issue was actually I was happy not to have to deal with that, because I have heard so many stories of stuff that nutritionists have told people that are just so insane that I was like, I'm more comfortable making decisions for myself than feeling like I have to answer to some nutritionist who's going to give me ridiculous advice. There are and this is not to disparage nutritionists, I just want to say that, but
no, I
have talked to so many people and watched so many videos of people talking about their nutritionist, and it seems to me like very few of them actually care about you personally, and they're just telling you what the program says. You need to do this, you need to do that. Very few of them do what a nutritionist is supposed to do, sadly, which is to actually deal with you individually. A lot of them just seem to be like, well, yeah, you should, you know, eat 1,200 calories. Well, I'm sorry, if you're only 6 weeks out of surgery, that's just not even going to happen. And some of the nutritionists aren't even bariatric nutritionists. They'll just send to the nutritionist that works at the hospital, and they seem to know nothing about bariatric patients. So I have like nutritionist issues, not with the profession, but just with some of the nutritionists out there in bariatric programs that seem to give just insane one-size-fits-all advice that sometimes doesn't even make sense for bariatric patients. So.
And I agree with you in general. Like, I think that that's probably true. I happen to, the hospital support group where I live allows people that had surgery elsewhere to attend. Mm-hmm. So I have been attending since right before I had surgery, kind of sporadically, because I have mixed feelings about the way the support happens in that group. You know, any group of people is completely nutso. My group tends to be full of more people that want to educate you, even though they're patients, and there's very little support. It feels like constant one-upsmanship of like people's information, and I just don't get involved in that.
That's
so
like a whole other video,
right? We should do a video on support groups. Yeah. Anyway, I will say though that the people, and that's where I would have had surgery if it had panned out. the nutritionist is very well liked by that group of people, and she does go individually with you. She's a bariatric nutritionist. She builds an individual plan. Maybe that's why I feel a little bit like I wish I had that. I do know that not everyone has that nutritionist experience.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I had that, but I probably, to be honest, would have to seek it out privately myself to get, you know, what I would want, which I'm not averse to doing. I might actually do that in the future. But right now I'm sort of like just experimenting on my own. But I don't, yeah, it's not that I have a problem with nutritionists in general, but I do have a problem with some of the advice that's given by nutritionists that are related to bariatric programs where it doesn't seem like they have any idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know, overall, I mean, just in general, I had a great experience, and I would still take going to Mexico. Mm. In fact, I will say that having talked to my friends that had surgery in the States, I think I generally had a better actual surgery experience than a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, even the friends that I know that have had surgery here in Ontario, I would kind of say the same thing. Like, my experience in the hospital, I think, was way better. I was certainly in the hospital longer than most of them, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that one is necessarily better than the other, but just the hospital experience itself, I feel like that's probably true as well.
And what was, how often did you see, Corey, your doctor? What was it like from the time you had surgery at the hospital till you left? What was, the staff was attentive, you said, but not there. How often did you see your doctor?
The doctor came in at least once a day. The day I was released from the hospital, he brought me, like, juice and told me, you know, mix this with this, half water, half juice, or 25% juice, 75% water. Like a to-go package, pretty much. You know, it had, you know, pain medication in it. It had, like, an antacid that you were to just drink 20 to 30 minutes before you were to eat anything if you had any problems like that. But I saw, you know, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, just to check on me. But, you know, they would check with the nurses, too, to make sure that I'd been up and walking. But I had no issues with that. He came in, and he's good to go. I mean, so you saw him just about every day. And then he called me the day before my surgery, and he called me because I spent an extra couple of days in Cancun making it a vacation aspect. So he even called me every day after when I was there just to make sure I was doing okay and if I had any questions or any issues. So, I mean, with them, it's great. And, I mean, I'm still in contact with him via Facebook and email today. So,
what kind of tests did they do after you had surgery? One of the things Chris was saying is that he would have been worried, you know, if he had had a leak or something like that. So what did they do there to make you feel confident that you could come back to the States and not have major complications?
Well, they had me drink this blue liquid, and I had a drain on my left side. So on Sunday, I had surgery Friday, and on Sunday afternoon, he says, okay, we're going to do your leak test. So, you know, I had ice chips this entire time since Friday, pretty much, and some water. And there's a styrofoam cup that's like 8 ounces, and they say, you'll need to drink this, but you can't sip it. You need to drink it. Mm-hmm. I was scared. That's the first point. Like, I was scared to death. Like, oh, my God, I'm going to bust my stomach. So I drank this liquid, disgusting, blue, like, your lips are stained for days. So 30 minutes later, he comes in, looks at the drain, and he says, okay, no leaks. And, oh, no, I'm sorry, they did take me to go get an x-ray at that point. So they did take me to go get a chest x-ray, I believe. So they wheeled me down there, and then 30 minutes later, they came back, said there's no leaks, and he says, this is going to be a little uncomfortable. It's not going to hurt, but it's going to be uncomfortable. And then they started taking out the 4-foot-long tube that's in you.
Didn't it feel like it was 1,000 feet long?
It really did.
It wasn't that it was painful. It was like a snake inside of you just going, as it's like coming out of you.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It was freaky. It wasn't painful, just very freaky.
Strange.
It was the single weirdest feeling I think I've ever experienced, because it did feel like it was like all wrapped around everything in there, and as you pulled it out, it was like...
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We had multiple with Dr. Aceves. We had multiple leak tests. So obviously they do a leak test when they're done with your surgery. Then
Before they close you up.
Before they close you up, right? Then we weren't allowed to have anything, not even water, until we drank these 4 little, like, 1 ounce things of apple juice dyed like crazy blue. Same thing, they check your drain. And then the next day you had a barium swallow as well, and they actually let you see, like, your stomach and everything, which is really cool.
That was cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I left very confident that I did not have a leak, at least at the time. It's not like you can't develop a leak. You can. But, yeah, I left there confident that things were okay.
Yeah, that obviously I had the same experience in terms of what it was like afterwards. But the cool thing about the barium swallow to me is they have you drink that chalky, gross stuff, and then because we got to see it as it was happening. Mine kind of got stuck at the top of my sleeve, probably because my sleeve was swollen like all hell. And he said, okay, now take a deep breath. And I did, and you could just watch it drain down into my stomach. Mm-hmm. And that was actually really helpful for me when I came back. When I started to feel, like, I felt like I had then, like, okay, if I'm starting to feel that way and I take a deep breath, you know, just while your sleeve is swollen and it's not quite as open on top. I know that was really helpful for me. I thought that was cool. And they put it on a video for me. I have a DVD of my barium swallow.
I know, I'm like bitter. I only got photos, but that's still cool. Yeah.
So I don't have anything else.
No, well, I was gonna say I think we're just over an hour, so
yeah.
But Corey, just tell us. You know, this is the sales part of the video. Mm-hmm. Would you recommend your doctor to other people? I know you said that you have, but
yeah, I would recommend it.
Doctor a little bit.
Yeah, I would recommend it to anyone. I mean, like I said, I had a great experience. I feel like I was successful with it, and I feel like I have good results from him. I have sent people there. I'll continue to send people there, especially for people that are getting denied here. It's a great alternative, and it's, you know, saved my life. So I would do it again tomorrow. So. If they said tomorrow I'd put 50, 70, 80 pounds back on and I had to have the surgery again to keep it off, sign me up. I don't care how much it costs. I'd be there on the next plane.
Mm. Spoon?
Yeah, I do remember what else I wanted to say. I had asked Corey about, you know, how many times he saw the doctor and stuff, and I just wanted to say that for us, I feel like I saw Dr. Aceves about twice a day and Dr. Campos at least once or twice a day.
Yeah.
I came in about 7 in the morning and 7 at night, and then one of them came in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I would say I saw a doctor at least 3 times. One of Dr. Campos, Dr. Aceves, or the other one whose name I can never remember. I just called him Cutie. The, like, younger, with the longish hair. I gotta find out his name.
Oh, God, was he the cutest or what? When I was about to go under.
He's the one that took out my drain.
Oh, man. When I was about to go under... on the operating table, he told me that that he was going to have me listen to the Rosetta Stone during surgery, and I'd wake up speaking perfect Spanish.
Well, he was the one that I said told him in Spanish that I was nauseous, because even though he spoke perfect English, but I was like out of it in recovery, and I was like, you have to tell him in Spanish you're nauseous. Anyway. Yeah, and I would say 3 times a day there was some doctor in there.
And I saw the nurses, you know, the nurses were right outside my door if I needed anything. Yeah. I had no language issues with the exception of once in the middle of the night I wanted a sleeping aid, and the overnight nurse that's there really in the middle of the night, she was brand new to that wing and didn't speak a lot of English because that hospital is used by locals. I think really probably people only go internationally for bariatrics. She was new to that wing, didn't really speak English, but I had my phone. So Google Translate did a good enough job that I could say, I need medicine for sleep. You know, it didn't, I'm sure it was horribly imperfect Spanish, but it got the message across. Yeah. And she had her phone out doing Google Translate, and I had my phone out doing Google Translate, but that was the only one time in the middle of the night when you're not likely to need a lot of anything that I needed it. Anyway, yes, I absolutely recommend Dr. Aceves. I had a great experience. I'll send people there. I actually, you know, one thing you told me before we had surgery is that you kind of missed him in a weird way.
Oh, I do, yeah.
And I thought that was a weird thing to say, because I was like, I don't think I've ever missed a surgeon. I've never been like, But there is something very, I do kind of. I would go back in a heartbeat just to see them and to be back in that space for a little bit. I have a weird emotional connection to it.
Oh, actually, that reminds me of two things. So I totally was thinking that the WLSFA event next year in San Diego, I'm sure that I'm going to go, but I definitely want to get in touch with them and see if I can go to Almeida and visit everyone.
Oh.
But also, I know we had been talking to Nina at Obesity Help last year about doing some kind of patient reunion thing. And I haven't actually talked to her in the last little while, but I did just see that Obesity Help updated their schedule for the event, and it shows a patient reunion for Dr. Aceves' patients on Saturday night before the Saturday night event. So I think it's from like 7 to 8. So if you're going to be at Obesity Help and you are one of Dr. Aceves' patients, there is going to be a reunion. I don't know if Dr. Aceves is going to be there. I know that they were trying to clear his schedule because he had something else going on, but hopefully he is. I will try and get more info from Nina about that, but I just wanted to put that out there. I'll definitely be there. So, yeah. And yes, obviously, I would definitely recommend Dr. Aceves and Almeida. I had a great experience there. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm not as cool as Phil and TJ. I don't have 2 screens, so I can't see that if you guys have left comments. I know there's like 7 of you watching right now. But if you had questions or whatever, at least I and hopefully Corey and Spoon will also go back and read them and answer any questions.
Yeah, or you can reach out on Facebook, too, if you don't want to leave the comment in a public space where everyone else could read it or whatever. Please feel free to reach out on Facebook or send an email. Oh, shit, there was something else I was going to say, and I forget what it was. But it's obviously not that important. But, yes, great experience. Ask questions if you have them. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I often tell people that having surgery in Mexico was the single best medical experience of my life. I felt like my care was the best. I felt like the facility was the best. I felt like it's not just the quality of the actual surgery, but the bedside manner and the fact that I genuinely felt like they cared about me and my success, and I didn't feel like a number or a chart. Like, I felt like a person there, and I think often you don't feel like a person in medical situations.
Well, I think that...
That's 100%.
I think that the difference, at least for me especially, is because we have a public health care system here, and again, I am grateful for that. I love that. However, you are a number here. I mean, you're not in a private hospital. You're not paying their salary. The customer service level is, you know, they just want to get it done and get you out of there and get on to the next person. That's what it's about. It's about giving you, I won't say the minimum level of care, but I mean, they're not trying to go over and above. They don't need your recommendation. The difference with having surgery in Mexico in a private hospital, whatever, is that they need you to have a good experience. They want you to have a good experience. They want you to go and talk to other people and you know, sell it because they're in it to make money, which some people would see it as a bad thing, but I think for your care, it's actually a good thing because they're a lot more into how good your experience is than in other places. You know, even at hospitals in the U.S., I think the experience is probably very similar.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have public hospitals here or whatever. They're all kind of private in a way or nonprofit, but it's all more or less the same as what you experience. I mean, the number of times I've been in a medical situation where I needed a particular something, but it wasn't life-threatening, and before they would do it, you have to get insurance approval because they're certainly not going to do it if it's not covered by your insurance because they don't expect you to pay for it at the end of the day. And it is very, like, it's, even though most of our hospitals are not for-profit, and it's still, it's a very clinical, you're a number on a chart, you're someone filling a bed, you're
not directly putting money in their pocket, basically. So
you're an insurance policy number, you know, or an uninsured. Heaven forbid you be uninsured in American healthcare. So, so yeah, it's similar experience. But I do feel like that would not have happened at Almeida. The minute I needed something, they got it for me. I paid a flat fee, and they were not going to. They didn't deny me a single thing I requested. They didn't hedge. They didn't. I mean, I really. Yeah. They didn't try and talk me out of anything, you know, which is something that often happens here as well.
Yeah, I just think they have a vested interest in your care being as good as possible because you're putting money directly in their pocket, pretty much. So,
Yeah.
In this case, I think that's actually a good thing as a patient.
Okay, I lied. I do have one more question that I meant to ask. And that was, I know we had a wing, but Corey, did you interact with other bariatric patients there when you were at the hospital?
I didn't see a single soul as another patient in the hospital at all. Like, when I was in the back room, I was the only one there, and then when they had that emergency with the kid, that was the only patient I saw at the entire hospital, so I had no interaction with anyone else. I know there was other people there, but when I was walking the halls, I mean, on the floor I was on, if there were 6 rooms maybe on that wing, and I would just walk back and forth, and I never really saw anyone. I know Bill had talked to someone in that they had just had the surgery, but they weren't up and walking as much as I had been, because I had never crossed paths with anyone.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, I know that you spent a car ride with some people and had kind of a couple of people. Do you stay in touch with them still?
I do, and they're both doing extremely well. That's the one thing I can say about the majority of Dr. Aceves' patients that I've seen. Everyone's gotten to goal. Everyone seems to lose weight quickly. I mean, I can't talk about like maintaining, but the results that he has, they seem to be really great. People I had surgery with, both they're both already at goal. They both look amazing. One of them actually had plastics with this same doctor that I'm thinking about going to in Mexico. So that was just, I think I might have been the one who told him about this doctor, Dr. Sauceda in Monterey. But yeah, so that's really convenient for me because I can keep in touch with him and find out. But yeah, I mean, they were, we shared a car ride down. They were both, there. We saw them every day. Will actually spent some time with one of them because he was there alone. So I was like, we'll go, spend some time. And like, I just felt bad that he was there by himself. So that was nice. I mean, I love having a connection with them still. And yeah.
No one was on my car ride there or back. There were 2 other people that had surgery the day I did. One of them drove there from the States, and the other one was a local, actually, from Mexicali. Both of them were revisions. I know Dr. Aceves kind of specializes in it. He's well known for his
revisions, yeah.
His success with revisions and lack of complications. One of them was a lap band revision, and the other one had some mysterious stomach stapling in the 80s or late, something that they don't really do anymore. And I know she wanted the sleeve, but because of the scar tissue left from that had to be an RNY. But I talked to both of them while I was there. I didn't hang out with either of them. My mom was there, and I spent a lot of time with her or whatever. But both people went to Dr. Aceves because of their revisions, because they were having revisions. So
I know Dr. Aceves does all types of surgery. I believe he still does lap band. I know that he does VSG, does RNY and DS. Corey, does your surgeon? I mean, a lighter me, I'm guessing, deals with different surgeons. So they could find a surgeon that does whatever surgery you need. But do you know if your surgeon does just VSG or does he do other surgeries as well?
I was under the impression he did, because he has a surgical team, I guess, so to speak. I was under the impression he does both.
Okay.
But it was more the VSG from what I understand, because I think at the time he had done over 2,000 of them. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Dr. Aceves, I know, does lots of VSG and lots of and VSG revisions as well.
Okay, let's close this up, guys. Someone's at my door.
All right, so thank you guys for watching. Those of you that are, 8 of you who are watching live, thumbs up. I'm going to put all the doctors and everything that we've talked about as much as I can below, and if you have questions, feel free to contact any of us. We will see you again at some other point.
Saturday.
Some Saturday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.